But yeah, so Jim, what did you think of Saw 3?
Patrick, this movie for me was such a slog to get through. I'm going to be honest. The writing is bad, the acting is bad, the plot is kind of semi-confusing and also uninteresting, really. Jeff is a terrible character.
Jeff is terrible.
Amanda's an annoying character as well.
A little bit.
I don't know, it was just... It was what you want out of a Saw movie. Like nobody's going to the theater for the stories, right? They're going for the kills.
Mm-hmm.
But even that being said, like, the kills weren't that spectacular or interesting.
Hey, man, the rack is pretty cool.
The rack is cool, but that's really
the rack
only
is neat.
Cool one I can think
Yeah, the
of,
frozen naked woman kind of. Well, the whatever, the blood eagle or whatever, that was cool.
Well, I guess the chains, that was pretty gory and neat. But I don't know. It was just kind of a shitty movie. It was worse than I remembered.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to circle back to a couple things you said. You said specifically the writing is bad and the plot is confusing. I don't necessarily disagree. There's some cleverness there, but it does feel like this screenplay is just really trying to withhold information for the sake of having a twist.
Yes, yeah.
The whole, what do you want from me? A divorce. That seems so cheap because it's directly misleading you, but at the same time, I kind of like that. Like, the twists kind of work for me, where it's a lot of, like, the Saw movies always do this, but the whole, like, this thing that Jigsaw said actually had multiple meanings. In this case, whatever he said to Lynn actually was directed at Amanda, and she didn't have the foresight to notice that because she's not a god, unlike Jigsaw. I understand that can be frustrating. I kind of enjoyed it, though. Saw 3, like most of the Saw movies for me, is a guilty pleasure. It's not a good movie. It's maybe a terrible movie. I don't know. It's a huge step down from Saw 2. And I'm a Saw 2 defender. A lot of people are like, yeah, the first Saw movie is good. All of them suck after that. No, I think Saw 2 is pretty good. I do.
Well, and Saw 2 is fine.
Saw 2 had that Donnie Wahlberg performance.
Yes, yeah.
Saw 3 does not have anything on the level of Donnie Wahlberg in Saw 2. And quite frankly, Saw 2, that's Tobin Bell's best work in the series. It's mostly just because that's the state he is, where he's like kind of dying, but he's at least able to sit upright and deliver lines. Like here, he's just in a bed. So he's not bad in Saw 3, but Saw 2 definitely, that's the most that Tobin Bell is given to work with in the series. And I think that the film greatly benefits from that and Donnie Wahlberg together. I think those are the two best performances in the series. Saw 3, like you were saying, it's really just Tobin Bell. Everyone else kind of sucks, and that's largely true, unfortunately.
Well, and then even just like the characters, right? Like they're just so, I don't know if they're written poorly or if they're just boring to watch. Other than like Jeff, like I don't want to say
Jeff's boring to watch, though.
He's boring to watch. He's a shitty character. He's a shit human character, if that makes sense. What I'm saying
there.
He's and like his.
But at the same time, you kind of get it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I get it.
He's not just like a raging asshole for no reason. He's
no, but I get that. But it's also like in a situation like that, I don't want to see somebody die in front of me in some weird, horrific way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, the judge even has to remind him, like, you're an accessory to murder if you don't, like, do shit. Come on.
And then even, like, Lynn, half of what she does in this movie is complain to Amanda and Kramer that I gotta get him to a hospital.
Andy Lane.
Yes, yeah.
And Jerry.
But yeah, all she does is complain. I gotta get him to a hospital. I can't do this here. I can't do this here. How am I gonna do this here? What do you want me to do? He's gonna die. Like, that's most of her lines in that 10 seconds that I just read out there. The movie feels very repetitive, and it feels like it's not going anywhere up until the last 15 minutes of the movie. You know? And it's just like, ugh, what am I watching? Hurry up. Get to the end.
Here's the thing. I don't disagree with you with most of that. I think it's got a relatively strong opening 15 minutes or so back when Dina Meyer was still alive. That stuff to me is pretty interesting.
I agree, yeah.
And that last 15 minutes pretty interesting once we get to the rack. But I'll tell you what, that last act or whatever does a lot to save it. I think the twist largely works for me. It's dumb.
I agree.
It's cheap, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I like that. I a lot of the middle I can kind of take or leave. I think Jeff's, because most of these Saw movies, maybe all of them, have two plots. They have cop investigation plot which that's only in the opening here, basically. But and then they have Guy in the game. This movie, we kind of go from cop investigation to the game, but we have two separate games. Mm-hmm. Neither of them are all that interesting, and I think the more frustrating one is the Lynn-Amanda stuff, because I think there's at least potential there to make Amanda and Amanda's relationship with John Kramer a lot more interesting than it is. There's a Stockholm Syndrome, like what we don't really get why she loves this guy, adores him, worships him, but then also, like, if she loves this guy so much, why does she just... He's got one rule, basically, is don't kill people, make them kill themselves, and then that's the one thing that she won't do. And like, I wanted more from Amanda there, and I don't disagree that Shawnee Smith isn't very good in this movie, but I also think it is a pretty poorly written character in this film, anyways.
And I 100% agree with you. I totally agree with you. And I think we just have a perfect storm of shit that's come together to make this movie, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and that's where that's your conclusion. That's fine, but my conclusion is it's a Saw movie. You know, it's exactly. It would have been awesome if it was better. It would have been awesome if it was better. If it could have reached Saw 2 levels of, like, this is pretty good, or even Saw 1 levels of, this isn't great, but I love at least what they're going for. Like, that would have been wonderful. And Saw 3 can't pull that off, and there's a number of reasons it can't. But I still overall kind of enjoy watching it. Like, I love Jigsaw as a character. I mean, he's incredibly frustrating because he's incredibly hypocritical and everything, but like I love how committed he is to everything, and then just he's the most judgmental person ever, and I think that's a fun horror villain. So yeah, I don't know. I still love the Saw movies for all their faults, and I like Saw 3, even though it's far and away up to this point the worst Saw movie of the first three.
I guess just to close out my thoughts on it, the only thing I want going into a Saw movie is interesting kills, cool contraptions, and relatively interesting characters. And this movie was pretty lax on both, for the most part. There was a couple cool machines and kills, but that was it. And all the characters were awful. Poorly written and shitty people.
Yeah, I think where you and I differ then is I think we agree on the characters. I think the kills and the contraptions are more interesting than you're giving them credit for. I agree some of them are lackluster. But yeah, Saw 3 gave me kind of what I wanted out of a shitty Saw sequel that Leigh Whannell and James Wan are increasingly trying to distance themselves from the series at this point. So, it's all right. I'll watch it again.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the review. It's all right. I'll watch it again.